Good morning, tarot friends. How are you today? Thank you for stopping by to join me. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about a couple of things. The first thing I wanted to talk about is a new deck I got in May by Robert M. Place. It's called the Tarot of the Alchemical Magnum Opus. And it's a new deck by him. And I saw it online. Someone posted pictures of it. And as soon as I saw the 3 or 4 cards that were posted, it just hit me and I knew that I wanted to get this deck. It spoke to me and it really kind of hit me in my heart and soul and gut and mind. So you know how that can happen. So this wasn't a spontaneous buy. This was something I thought about. I first saw the images of this at the beginning of 2020. And at that time, I had been planning to go to the Reader Studio the end of April. And Robert M. Place always has a booth there and sells his products. And so I put some money aside and said, okay, that's the deck I'm going to buy this year at Reader Studio. Well, as we all know, COVID-19 struck and of course Reader Studio was canceled. So some time goes by and now it's May and I decided, you know what, I'm still going to buy that deck. So I sent away for it and earlier this month it arrived. And I am really enjoying it. I know very little about alchemy. I do know about the Sorcerer's Stone from the Harry Potter books. Kidding. I do have one of Robert Place's other decks that is about alchemy, but really I know very little. So I'm going to do a deep dive into this deck and into the topic of alchemy. The other thing I wanted to talk about in this video was a new journal that came my way. I was gifted a beautiful handmade journal from the lovely Tracy Timmerman at Becoming Temperance. That's her YouTube channel. You may be familiar with Tracy. She does wonderful tarot videos and I have always enjoyed her videos. And I was the lucky winner of a journal that she made. It came, I don't know, a week ago, so maybe a couple weeks after the Tarot of the Alchemical Magnum Opus, and I want you to look at the cover of it. Can you see that? Yes, it says alchemy on it. So apparently alchemy is coming into my life and it's time for me to take a look at that. I'm going to show you some more close-ups of this beautiful work of art that Tracy created and that I am quite grateful for. I'm going to, because it says alchemy on it and the theme I'll show you inside the journal is alchemy, I'm going to be using this journal to record my studies of the Tarot of the Alchemical Magnum Opus. So let's begin with that. You know, I have to say, I hesitated to make this video because we are living in explosive and uncertain times here in the United States at the end of May 2020. I thought, is it irreverent? Is it irresponsible to make a video about tarot during these explosive and uncertain times? And I decided that it wasn't, because for me, when I have questions about uncertainty, about growth and evolution of myself as a person, I consult tarot, and tarot assists me to develop, evolve, and grow into what I hope is a better person. And so I have been using tarot as we have been dealing with the craziness that's going on in this country right now. And by craziness, I don't mean the protests. I am completely understanding and in favor of the protests. And in fact, I'm going to go to one in my town later on this afternoon. I want to stand in solidarity with my Black brothers and sisters. So that's not what I think is crazy. What I think is crazy is the racism and the denial of the racism, and people, white people, not recognizing and acknowledging white skin privilege. So anyway, I didn't want to not mention what's going on in this country. So the new deck, as I said, is the Tarot of the Alchemical Magnum Opus by Robert M. Place. And Robert M. Place is now packaging his decks in this fabulous packaging. So it's a box that is covered in material, this beautiful green cotton cloth, and it has a title on the front of the deck, and you just slip this off. It's sturdy. It comes off fairly easily, and yet, you know, you can hold it like this without the bottom falling out. So here's the deck, and I'm loving this incredibly shiny gold gilt. I mean, it makes sense for an alchemical deck to be covered in gold, right? So it's really, really shiny and gold. And I wanted to read a little bit from the little booklet that comes with the deck. This is really interesting to me. It's a really short and brief little white book, but it has more than enough, or certainly enough information for you to dive in and get to understand and be able to read with these cards. There is a Rider-Waite-Smith influence to the minors. The majors seem to be more influenced by alchemy, which makes sense. But the minors definitely, several of the cards, many of the cards have nods to the Rider-Waite-Smith. So here's what Robert M. Place says. The Tarot of the Alchemical Magnum Opus began when I attempted to redesign the Alchemical Tarot in a simpler, iconic form. Something like the iconic images found in traditional oracle decks, such as the Lenormand Oracle. I wanted to create simplified images that captured the essence of what each card was saying. He also wanted to make a deck that could have been printed using the Renaissance technique, wood blocking. So that's what he did. I wanted to say a little bit too about the Fool. This is called the Unnamed Card. It's a jester. And it's the Fool card in this deck. And he says, this image of a joker represents the alchemist at the beginning of the work. His ignorance is necessary for him to begin to learn. He is a naive beginner. So there we have our Fool card. I also wanted to say that I had made an intention at the beginning of the year, and that was to finish reading Robert M. Place's book that my friend Ben nicknamed The Tome. And so that's what I call this book now, The Tome. It is, I think, close to 680 pages. It weighs a ton, and it is the Tarot, Magic, Alchemy, Hermeticism, and Neoplatonism. It's an amalgamation of several of Robert Place's other books, but I did want to read it, and I had started it and had not finished it. I like to read in bed at night, and honestly, the book is so heavy, it's almost too hard to hold, to read. But what I realized was that when I decided to take a look at and work with this new deck, the Magnum Opus, that the deck that is a distillation of this deck, the Alchemical Tarot, this is the 4th edition. Sorry, it's a little dark. That I had the guidebook. And what I'm finding is that much of this information is included in the tome. This is 250 pages, and this is an easier place for me to start. And I am about halfway through, and I do intend to finish it as I'm working with the Magnum Opus. So let me just go through the majors quickly for you, and then I had a couple of minors to show. So again, it's a simplified version. The titles are alchemical related. They are not Rider-Waite-Smith related. So there's the Fool. The Magician is the Materia Prima. Here's the High Priestess, Priestess of Water. The Empress is the White Queen. The Red King. And here we see the Hierophant with his triple crown. This, again, conjunction is an alchemical process and how perfect for the Lovers card. Robert M. Place, I think, is one of the few tarot creators who bring sexuality or the actual sex act into the Lovers card. And so to use conjunction for the Lovers card, I think, is very much in line with him. Sublimation, again, more alchemical terminology. Disposition, so we see Justice as key 8. Here's the Hermit. Exaltation. The Wheel, I love being called Circulation. Here we have Strength, Fermentation. And I think I'm going to have to study these alchemical processes a little bit to make some of the connections are obvious, but some are not so obvious. Crucified Serpent as the Hangman, and Death, Putrefaction, which of course makes sense. I don't really need to look that one up, but I wanted to show you. This is the Death card from the Alchemical Tarot, and you can see how Robert M. Place has distilled down that imagery into the Death card for the Magnum Opus. Here we see distillation for Temperance. Coagulation is the Devil. Greater Dissolution, Tower. Star is Baptism. The Moon is Lapis Albus. Greater Conjunction is the Star. And interesting, we see that masculine star and the feminine moon in this Greater Conjunction. Resurrection for Judgment. And Lapis Philosophorum for Judgment. So I wanted to show you some of the minors that I thought were Rider-Waite-Smith related. Let me just pull those out. So here we see the Six of Swords, and you can very much see the nod or the influence of Rider-Waite-Smith in this card. Same holds true for the Seven of Swords. You can see the influence or the nod to the Rider-Waite-Smith. The Seven of what he calls batons or wands, again, takes on a distilled or iconic imagery or meaning of that Rider-Waite-Smith card. Same with the 3 of batons or wands. The 3 of cups. Here we see that the cups are water, and we can see the other 3 elements are referenced here, the fire, the earth, and the air. And so let me just see what the book says here about this card. It has to do with the community and celebrating the community. Let me just get to that. 3 of Cups, the support group. The cups supply the 3 elements not of this suit: fire, earth, and air. Friends, support, a support group. So we can see, again, a nod to the Rider-Waite-Smith. For coins, here we can see the Ace of Coins or Pentacles. The 6 of Coins, again, that giving and receiving card. The 4 of Coins, that miserly burying and digging and covering up your gold or your wealth, holding on really tightly. So we can see that there is a nod to the Rider-Waite-Smith cards in the minors. The court cards have been renamed. I just pulled 1 of each suit. So instead of page, we have lady. So this is the Lady of Batons. The Knight of Swords. We have queens. The Queen of Coins, and then here we see the King of Cups. And each one of the kings is an animal. I think the batons is a lion. Can't remember what the other 2 suits are, but yes, the kings are animals. I would like to quickly say a word about this cardstock. It is magnificent. I have small hands, and I often find it hard to shuffle decks. Even a normal size tarot deck, I have to shuffle sideways. And so if the cardstock is not pliable, it's really hard for me. So this I can shuffle either lengthwise or crosswise. Really easy to shuffle. The texture of the cards is lovely. And so, you know, I would rather have beautiful imagery, or maybe not beautiful, but imagery that speaks to me on cards than beautiful cardstock. But hey, in this deck you get both. So that's really wonderful. I wanted to just show one last set of cards. So this is the 5 of Swords from the Alchemy deck, the Alchemical Tarot. There we go, you can see it better there. And here we see that same card with the Magnum Opus. So you can see how this has become a distillation of this. So I'm really enjoying this. My first few pulls of this deck have been a lot of Wands cards, which, given what's going on now, is not surprising. So I wanted to talk a little bit now about this beautiful deck that Tracy made and so generously gifted me. I am not a crafty person, and so I can't even imagine the amount of work or how she did this, but it is fantastic. So the cover is from an old book cover that she has then covered with this tea-stained material that she made herself. And then in it, so you can see there's little pockets with cards that can be used for bookmarks. There's little envelopes that have been made, little pockets that you can put things in. And in this journal are all sorts of cards from tarot decks. And the tarot decks are alchemical. So I did start this. You can see I decided to use gold, a gold pen, and I dedicated this on the 26th of May. And I went online and took a look at some alchemical processes: calcination, dissolution, separation, conjunction, fermentation, distillation, and coagulation. Several of those are reflected in the Magnum Opus majors. So I can't say enough about the beauty of this journal. You can see Tracy tea stained all the pages. Again, beautiful cards are put in here. Places that I can put cards if I want to. I can photocopy some of the cards that I'm studying and put them in here. And I think it's really kind of interesting that in this pocket towards the back, right here, 2 cards, Star Strength. These are my birth cards, and these happen to be in the journal. So thank you for that, Tracy. Not sure how you knew that, but I just wanted to go look at this beautiful bookmark. I just wanted to publicly thank Tracy for gifting me this beautiful journal, and to say that I am definitely going to be using it. I think it's just such synchronicity that in the same month that I got this Magnum Opus tarot and decided to really dive into studying it and alchemy in general, that Tracy gifted me with this beautiful journal that has a theme of alchemy. So, synchronicity in the tarot community. Thank you all for stopping by. I'm really happy to be able to be part of this wonderful online tarot community. I think during challenging times, having a community is so important to keep our spirits bolstered and to keep us able to be active and to do the right thing. Blessed be everyone. And again, thank you, Tracy Timmerman.